major highlights of Budget 2009. Heart disease drugs to become cheaper. Customs duty on gold and silver imports increased. Mobile phone accessories to be cheaper. Branded jewelry for women becomes cheaper. Set-top boxes to cost more. IT returns to be made simpler. Fringe benefit tax to be scrapped. IT exemption for women up to Rs 1.9 lakhs. IT exemption up to Rs 2.5 lakhs for senior citizens. Interest subsidy for home loans up to Rs 1 lakh. Interest subsidy on education loans. A central university proposed in each state. Panel to look into petroleum product pricing. Unique identification ID project in 12 to 18 months. Job creation hit due to economic slowdown. Creation of 12 million jobs a year to ensure farm sector growth at 4%. Government to introduce food security bill. Rs 2,000 crore for rural housing fund. The budget brings good news for India's textile sector. The finance minister has announced a handloom mega cluster in Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan and West Bengal. Besides textiles, Mukherjee said a panel would be set up on petroleum pricing to keep domestic oil prices in tune with global prices.
It is a mandate for inclusive growth measures during the current year.
In the budget for 2009, Pranab Mukherjee has announced a Rs 500 crore aid package for the Tamil people of Sri Lanka. The Tamils, who are a minority, have been displaced for decades by a separatist war. Sri Lanka's Tamils also live as refugees in the camps in Tamil Nadu. The aid was announced some weeks ago by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as combat operations in the war came to a halt in May. The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M. Karunanidhi, has praised the aid package for Sri Lanka's Tamil people, announced in the Indian budget. He said the budget placed priority to social justice and would be beneficial for all sections of society. In a statement, Karunanidhi welcomed increased funds for rural employment and amenities for the urban poor. He also appreciated the increase in farm loans and interest rate cuts for farmers repaying loans on time. Tamil Nadu Congress President K.V. Thangabalu has this to say in reaction to the budget.
This is the people's friendly budget. Every section of the society are going to be benefited out of the budget, be it the youth, be it the woman, be it the farmer, be it the weavers, and every section of our society, the SC, ST, backward, minorities, like that is all-round growth-oriented budget.
Joining us from Hindu Studio is Raghuveer Srinivasan, Corporate Editor, Business Line, to share with us his insights on the budget. Mr. Srinivasan, welcome to the Twilight Report. What is your take on the Union budget table today?
Well, if you were to ask me to describe the budget in just two words, I would call it realistic and harmless. Realistic because Mr. Pranab Mukherjee has walked the tightrope in balancing the needs of the government revenues along with boosting private consumption. He's tried not to take away too much money from consumers' hands and also balance the budget deficit. And harmless because it could have been worse in the sense that given the prevailing atmosphere and the situation in terms of government finances, he could have increased tax rates, which he has not done. He's tried to keep it under control.
Great. Mr. Srinivasan, thank you for that. Now, the FM is, the finance minister is aiming for 9% growth. But in the agricultural sector, where they put in their best effort, they're aiming for 4% growth. How do you think this will match up?
Well, agriculture is only one component and it accounts for barely 20% of GDP. So the balance 80% is going to be contributed by the manufacturing sector and services, where hopefully he's thinking of a turnaround. He's probably gambling on a major turnaround in manufacturing in the next quarter or so. And with exports picking up hopefully by the end of this, by the last quarter of this fiscal year, which will boost services sector revenues. So his dice are all loaded towards the manufacturing and services sectors, with agriculture, especially given the current monsoon conditions, being at best a support actor.
Well, great. Now, I know that this might be a little too early to dissect at the state level, but overall, the southern states being the hub of many services industry, and about 54% of the GDP we know comprises of the service industry. What do you think? Is this enough being done in the services sector to stimulate the economy?
Well, I think the best thing that can be said about this budget is, as I said at the beginning, he's not done anything that could be harmful to growth in the services sector or manufacturing sector or in the overall economy for itself. So far as services goes, yes, there are certain things that he could have done, but his hands were probably tied down by the state of the government finances. And he's tried to balance it out by handing out a few freebies here and there in terms of abolishing of the fringe benefit tax, which will benefit a lot of service sector employees. He's probably hoping to boost income in their hands, which will lead to larger consumption expenditure across the economy. Especially with most service sector employees being in the young age group, they go out and they spend. So when you put more money in their hands, he's probably hoping consumption will improve and then overall, leading to overall economic growth. He could have possibly done a little more there, but I think given the circumstances, this is the best that he could have done. That's my opinion.
Interesting. Now, Mr. Srinivasan, looking at the deficit, we are aiming at a 6.8% deficit in this budget. In your opinion and past experience, when we aim at 6.8, do you think we'll actually end up with higher than that deficit?
Well, I hope not. I really hope not, because things do seem to be pointing in that direction. Even at 6.8%, it's going to be a tough time for the finance minister to balance the finances, because he's probably looking at huge borrowings in the market to fund the deficit, which will in turn push up interest costs across the economy. And inflation is projected already by the central bank to be around 5% by the end of the fiscal. So his is a very difficult balancing act, and fiscal deficit, as we see it at 6.8%, is not really a true reflection of the deficit in the government finances, simply because you're not taking into account state deficits, and you're also not taking into account deficits that are not on the balance sheet of the government, such as the oil subsidies, the fertilizer subsidies. These would easily add up to a cool 2 percentage points to the fiscal deficit. So what you're probably looking at is even now a 10% fiscal deficit.
Interesting. Mr. Srinivasan, fiscal deficits are also usually accompanied by a hike in inflation, as we know. How should the common man prepare to face this?
Well, there is precious little he can do except hope for the best, because inflation is certainly around the corner. We are all talking of negative inflation at the wholesale price index level, whereas at the consumer level, we are already talking of a 10% inflation, which is not really good for people like you and me when we go out into the market to buy our essential goods. He can possibly hope for an increase in interest rates, which again, I don't know if in the larger economic interest will happen, simply because the government is pushing for lower rates to spur the corporate sector into action. So a high inflation with artificially depressed interest rates is not good at all for the common man, because his real income is going to go down. So I only hope that this kind of a situation does not come about.
Overall, would you say that this is a budget for the common man?
Well, yes and no. In some ways, yes, because the personal income tax benefits have been given. Though small, I would say it could have been bigger, but he's at least tried to relieve the burden just that wee bit by increasing the threshold level for minimum income tax exemption limit. He's also done a few other things, such as increasing the exemption under Section 80E for education loans. Now, you can take a deduction for interest on education loans for any education course compared to what it was now, which was only engineering, medicine, and such courses. Now, even if you do a polytechnic course and you take a loan for that, your interest can be deducted from your income. He's also done a few other things in terms of though excise duty rates have been increased. He's given a few exemptions where the common man's consumption comes in, such as in food items, in footwear, small things like bulbs. You may say they're not very big, but they all add up in the monthly budget of the common man.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Net, I
Srinivasan,
would
for
say-
your insights and all the inputs and for being with us on the Twilight Report. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, need to run. I'll see you more often, hopefully, with us. Lots of news and updates yet to come. Stay tuned. This is the Twilight Report.